Do you like light bikes? Do words like efficiency and wattage get you excited? Well then, grab your Lycra because today we're looking at the top 5 cross-country hardtails that all cost less than $2,000. Each one of these bikes weighs in at well under 30 pounds and is spec'd with the race-ready components that you need to get yourself on that Exceed podium this year. To be honest, I was blown away by the amount of competition in this field of bikes. There's just so many solid Exceed bikes for less than $2,000. It was pretty hard for me to pick the top 5, let alone the #1 bike on this list. So if you think I missed any good ones, please go ahead and leave those down there in the comments and share them with me and the other people who are watching this video. To help narrow things down for me though, I went ahead and used 3 criteria to choose and rank the bikes that I have on this list. That's gonna be the bike weight, the components that the bike is spec'd with, and then the manufacturer's warranty and reputation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with my first bike on the list. Coming in at number 5 is the Vitus Rapide VR. Now, if you haven't heard of Vitus, just like a lot of brands on this list today, they are a direct-to-consumer company that specializes in putting as much value into their bikes as they can. So it's no surprise that they showed up on this list of top 5 value XC hardtails. The Rapide, costing just $1,799 US, weighs a pretty impressive 24.5 pounds in the size medium. And that's thanks in part to having one of the nicer forks on this list and also having just an 11-speed drivetrain, and we'll talk more on that in just a second. Being that Vitus is direct to consumer, you can't go and buy one of these bikes from a local bike shop. You have to order it online and get it shipped to you. So you will need a little bit of bike assembly knowledge to get this set up and ready to go. In addition, the Vitus warranty is one of the worst on our list of 5 bikes today. You're gonna get a 5-year warranty on any manufacturer defects to that Rapide frame, but nothing else for the rest of the bike. Speaking of the frame, it is an aluminum frame and comes with some pretty traditional XC geometry. It's got a 68-degree head tube angle, a pretty dang slack 72.5-degree seat tube angle, and the shortest reach of any bike on our list. The medium coming with a reach of just 402 millimeters. So if you're interested in buying this bike and you're used to more trail geometry, you might want to consider sizing up. But let's go ahead and move on to that 3rd criteria now and talk about what components Vitus has spec'd this bike with. I mentioned earlier that it's got arguably one of the nicest forks on this list. That's the RockShox SID SL. This fork also has a remote lockout. So if the XC racing that you like to do has some fire road or even paved climbs, you don't need to reach down to that fork to lock it out. Just got a lever on the bars and that should keep things nice and easy, saving the energy for your pedaling. The Rapide comes with WTB I-25 rims laced to some in-house hubs. Those rims and that rim width will be great for cross country, but you probably won't be able to throw, say, a 2.4-inch tire on there. You're gonna need a little bit narrower of a tire on this bike. And that's, of course, reflected in the tire choice. The Rapide comes with a Maxxis Ardent tire in 2.25. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that's keeping this weight down to under 25 pounds is the fact that it's got an 11-speed cassette on the back instead of a 12. Thankfully, however, that 11-speed cassette in the form of the Shimano Dior 11-speed still has an 11 to 51 tooth range. Lastly, the Rapide does come with some pretty decent brakes, the Shimano M6100. They are 2-piston brakes just like every bike on this list, but for XC racing, that's probably all you're gonna need. So who is the Rapide VR for? Well, if you're looking for an aluminum frame that still comes with some pretty dialed components, especially like that RockShox SID fork, then this could be a great option for you. But I would encourage you to hold on because I think there are a few better choices on this list that we're gonna start getting into right now. Next up on the list is the Marin Team Marin 1, which in my opinion is one of the best looking bikes on this list. But we're of course here for a lot more than just the looks of this bike, and I'm happy to report that this is actually the cheapest bike on our list, coming in at just $1,499. The Team Marin 1 comes in at just under 28 pounds for the size medium, and that frame is gonna have a lifetime warranty, which is super awesome, as well as a 1-year warranty on all the parts and accessories fitted to that bike. The geometry on this bike leans a little bit further away from the XC race scene, as we'll see on some of the other bikes, and a little bit more well-rounded. So if you're looking for a bike that, yeah, you can go and make it a great XC race bike, but isn't gonna feel super uncomfortable or out of place on a traditional, more trail ride, then this could be a really solid bike for you. It's got a 67-degree head tube angle, the size medium has a 430 mil reach, and it's got some nice short snappy chainstays that are just 425 millimeters long. Moving on to the part spec, starting at the front of the bike, the Team Marin 1 has a fork that we're gonna see on a lot of different bikes today, and that is the RockShox Judy Silver. This is an air sprung fork, and in this case has 120 millimeters of travel, which again kind of hints at the fact that this kind of bridges the line between a full-on XC race bike and more of an XC trail bike. Shimano is going to be taking care of the drivetrain as well as the wheels. Drivetrain is a Shimano Dior with that 10 to 51 gear ratio. Should be all you need. Shimano is also covering braking needs, and I'm a little disappointed that this bike only comes with the Shimano MT201s, which are going to leave you wanting maybe a little bit more braking power than they provide straight out of the box. Going back to the wheels though, this bike does come with 29 millimeter internal width rims, which means if you wanted to put a bigger tire on this for those more trail ride type conditions, then you can definitely do it. Out of the box though, the Team Marin 1 is going to come with some V Tire Co. Roco XC tires in 2.3 inches wide. So who is the Team Marin 1 for? Well, if you're on a budget and looking for kind of the cheapest bike you can get that's still going to get you pretty high-end components and be completely race ready, then this is the one for you. To be honest, $1,500 is a killer deal for a bike with an air sprung fork, a 12-speed drivetrain, and a race-ready lightweight aluminum frame. To be honest, it's pretty rare that a Specialized bike gets on a value buyer's guide, but that's actually happened today. And coming in at third place is the Specialized Chisel, which costs just $1,800 and has a seriously race-ready pedigree all over this bike. I've read several reviews from full-on XC race riders who are used to riding full carbon bikes that cost probably 3 or 4 times what this does, who have been extremely impressed by the performance of this bike and say that they wouldn't have an issue racing it at an elite level. And one of the factors I'm sure that goes into that statement is that this bike weighs just a hair over 26 pounds in the size medium. That, paired with a very XC-focused 68-degree head tube angle and 430 millimeter reach, should make this a great option for those of you who are looking for an elite level race bike at an entry-level price. It also goes without saying that this bike is sold by one of the biggest bike companies in the world, Specialized. And there's bike shops that sell these bikes all over the place. That means that if you're looking for a bike that you can buy from your local bike shop and then bring it to them to do all your maintenance on it, this is gonna be a really, really good option for you. The Chisel also has the best warranty on our list, with a lifetime warranty on that frame and a 2-year warranty on all the other components that are strapped to it. Now, if that sub 27 pound weight and all that awesome stuff that comes from owning a bike from Specialized isn't enough for you to go ahead and buy this bike right now, then let's go ahead and talk about the components. This guy has the exact same fork as we saw on the Marin Team Marin. That's gonna be that RockShox Judy Silver, but in this case, it only has 100 millimeters of travel. Unlike the Marin, however, which had Shimano components on it, Specialized has chosen to spec this bike with SRAM. You're gonna get a SRAM SX drivetrain with an 11 to 50 cassette. Now, I've never ridden the SRAM SX drivetrain, but I do know that it's pretty heavy, so again, it's impressive that they've still been able to get this bike down to that weight. And I've heard that you have to adjust that shifting quite a bit, as it tends to fall out of sync a little more quickly than the nicer stuff does. The SRAM braking though, which is in the form of the Level T brakes, I have ridden, and I find them to be pretty impressive for just some 2-piston, relatively entry-level brakes. Just about everything else on this bike is gonna come in-house from Specialized, so wheels, tires, cockpit, all that jazz. The rims on this guy have an internal width of 25 millimeters, so again, you won't be able to run super fat rubber on there, but I don't think that's the intention for this bike anyway. Speaking of tires though, they are in-house Specialized Fast Track tires in 2.35 millimeters. Just like all the tires on this list, they're not gonna be the grippiest, but they are super fast tires, and you'll see these exact same tires on high-end cross-country race bikes all the time. As someone who prefers metal bikes, be that aluminum, steel, titanium over carbon, I think this Chisel would actually be my top pick on this list if I were to go and get an XC hardtail today. It's a beautiful bike, the geometry on it is bang on for XC racing, and again, it's pretty dang lightweight for having that aluminum frame. But I know that my opinion here is a minority, and most cross-country racers are looking for carbon fiber bikes, and I'm happy to report that the last 2 bikes on this list are fully carbon fiber. But before I tell you about those, if you would please go ahead and take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. That way you can see more bike reviews like this one and help others find this video. I'd really appreciate that. It was really tough for me to choose between these top two bikes, which I wanted to go ahead and put in the top spot and which was gonna take second place. And that bike coming in at number 2 is the Polygon Syncline C5. This bike costs $1,799, and despite the carbon fiber frame, it's actually the heaviest on this list, coming in at 28.5 pounds. Now, that's largely based on the wheels that this bike is spec'd with, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Polygon offers a 5-year warranty on all their carbon fiber frames, the Syncline included, and then a 2-year warranty on all their in-house parts that are bolted to that frame. Polygon is another direct-to-consumer brand. If you're in the US, you can buy that from Bikes Online, and we're actually Bikes Online ambassadors. So I've got a link to buy that from our affiliate link down in the description. So if you're interested in purchasing this bike, if you do that through that link, it'll cost the same price for you, but we'll get a little bit of a kickback. Let's dive into the components, starting at the front. The Syncline C5 comes with a Fox 32 fork on there with 120 millimeters of travel. The Fox Rhythm line of forks are super dialed. I've personally ridden the Rhythm 34 and the Rhythm 36 and had great experiences on both, so I don't think you're gonna have any issues with this fork. The 120 mils of travel on there is gonna put the head tube at 67 degrees, placing it a little bit more towards that kind of trail bike category, kind of like that Team Marin 1 than the full XC Race like some of the other bikes on this list. The rest of the geometry though is pretty dang similar with everything else on here. The medium has a reach of 430 millimeters, and it's got some pretty short chainstays at just 425 millimeters, which should make this bike feel super agile despite the slightly heavier weight. One of my favorite parts about the Syncline is the drivetrain. It's got a full Shimano SLX drivetrain on there. This is a drivetrain that I've ridden on several of my own hardtails, and I absolutely love it. The SLX is just about perfect for everything I need, and it's awesome that you can get it on this sub $2,000 carbon fiber hardtail. Braking is also taken care of by Shimano with the MT401 brakes. The wheels on this bike are kind of a mixed bag. We've got a Shimano front hub, a Novatec rear hub, and then some in-house Entity rims with a 30 millimeter internal width, which again is pointing to the fact that this bike could be used as more of a crossover trail bike, not just an XC race bike if you wanted to put some wider tires on there. I will say though that those rims are pretty dang heavy, so if you are interested in this bike but just want to get that weight down a couple pounds, then upgrading your wheels or even just replacing your rims is an easy way to do that. Lastly, the tires are taken care of by WTB. In this case, it's the WTB Trail Boss, which is definitely one of the most aggressive, probably heaviest weight and slowest rolling tires of any of the bikes on this list, but it's also going to have the greatest amount of grip and traction. So, who is the Polygon Syncline C5 for? Well, if you're a rider on a budget who wants to get on a carbon fiber frame, then the whole Syncline range is great for you. They actually have even cheaper models, so you can get on a carbon fiber hardtail for less than $1,500, which is super cool. But if you're not overly worried about weight and you'd rather have a super high-end fork and nice drivetrain than a bike that weighs maybe a pound or two less, then this Syncline C5 is absolutely the bike for you. And don't forget that we do have an affiliate link to buy this bike down in the description. Well, we made it to the final bike on our list, the number 1 bike on our list, which is the Canyon Exceed CF5. This is by far the most race-focused bike on our list, and we'll get into why that is here in a second. But the good news is it's only gonna set you back $1,699 and weighs just a hair under 26 pounds. Canyon is another direct-to-consumer company, so you can't buy this bike at a bike shop, but you can order online and get it sent straight to your house and either build it up yourself if you have a little bit of mechanical know-how, or take it to your local bike shop and have them do that for you. Canyon is also going to offer this bike with a 6-year warranty on that frame, but sadly nothing else on the bike. And speaking of that frame, I have to say that this is probably one of the highest end looking frames of any bike on this list. It's got a lot of really neat proprietary stuff going on. It's got an integrated seat post clamp that comes in underneath the top tube. It also has internally routed cables that go through the headset. And while that makes this bike look super clean and racy, the one concern that I do have with it is that given that this bike is a direct-to-consumer bike, you can't just bring it into your local bike shop and expect them to have the parts or the know-how to fix some of these highly specific things that this bike has. That said though, if you're looking for a feature-rich bike that looks like it costs probably about twice as much as it actually does, then this CF5 is definitely a great bike for you. The Canyon CX5 comes with a 100mm RockShox Recon fork. That's a 32mm stanchion fork, so a little bit burlier than the 30mm Judies that we've seen on some of these other bikes. This one also comes with that remote lockout so that you can lock that thing up right from the bars and you don't have to reach down to the fork to do it. And those 100 mils of travel are gonna give this bike a 69-degree head tube angle. That's definitely the steepest head tube angle of any bike on this list, and that should make it super great at tackling those super technical climbs, but maybe not so great on the technical descents. Braking and drivetrain are both taken care of by Shimano. It's got the Dior 12-speed drivetrain, that same 10 to 51 range that we've talked about earlier, and some MT7100, or in other words, Shimano SLX brakes. These are the best brakes of any bike on this list, which is one of the reasons why I've placed this bike at number 1. Another reason why I've done that is because of the wheel set that this thing comes with. It has the DT Swiss LNXC wheels. That LNXC means that you have the ratchet free hub in the back, which gives you plenty of engagement. It's a pretty lightweight wheel, and honestly, it's super high end for a bike that's less than $2,000. The CF5 is gonna come with the Schwalbe Rocket Ron tires in 2.25 inches wide. So again, a very racy tire for a very race-focused bike. So if XC Racing is your number one thing, or maybe you already have a more trail-focused bike as your main bike and you're just looking for something to win on Sunday, then this Canyon Exceed CF5 is absolutely the bike for you. Hardtails are arguably the perfect bike for a whole lot of XC racing, and it's super rad that there's so many dialed bikes that you can get for that job for less than $2,000. If you think I might have missed any bikes on this list, because again, there are a whole lot of great bikes under $2,000 in this category, then please go ahead and drop those in the comments so that I can learn more about it and we can share those with the other viewers on this video. While you're down there, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to our channel for more awesome hardtail content like this, and hopefully, I'll see you on the trail.